the growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on Sunday.
This is about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Oh, guns up, giddy up. Welcome to Failure to Stop podcast channel. Today's episode is the last call episode. Comes out every Thursday. We bring you 4 different styles of shows, all geared towards first responders, starting every Tuesday night with True Crime Tuesdays and Andrea Up Late, giving you all the gruesome mayhem and murder that comes with Night Shift. Every Thursday, every Wednesday, we do Last Call, which comes out on audio on Thursday, giving you all the news that you need so that you don't sound like an asshole cop to your civilian friends over the weekend. Gives you something else to talk about other than dead babies and domestic violence. Thursday nights is Comm Center with Drew Breezy and his cohort, dispatcher Jonathan. I don't know why I always want to say his name different than just Jonathan Bates, but they bring you the call-in show that could be anything and everything, but you get to call in while the show and give your piece of advice. And so you don't want to miss that. That's tomorrow night live on the YouTubes. Friday, our case breakdowns, famous case breakdowns with myself and Easy Drew Breezy this week. You are not going to want to miss that Friday show because honestly, this is probably my favorite topic that we've ever come up with for a breakdown. And I think it's going to be very important. And I think it's going to be good morale booster. I think it's going to be a really fun morale booster. I'll give you, because you tuned into Last Call today, let me give you a little snippet, a little heads up what we're going to do. And there is a website that paid homage to all the shitbags that were shot by police. And we're going to go through each one of those shitbags and break down why they were a shitbag and why they got caught from cops and why we should why we should dishonor the honorable dirtbags. It's going to be a really fun show. I've got jokes for days on that show. Today's show is brought to you by ghostbed.com. That's right, guys. Ghostbed's been with us since the beginning. Support those who support us by going to ghostbed.com. Use that /Wolfpack. That gets you 35% off of beds that are made in the good old USA, baby. Got that cooling technology, that adjustable base, $35 down, 0% financing. That's if you have Lazaro Lopez credits. But they are beds that sleep so good, they're scary. Ooh, go to ghostbed.com /Wolfpack. It's a bed that all first responders need. You can't take care of other people if you can't take care of yourself. And self-care starts with a good night's rest. Do it on a ghost bed, baby. Also, today's show is brought to you by Grommet Vomit Podcast. That's GROMMET VOMMIT. It is my first children's podcast ran by children 9 years of age. It is a podcast for kids by kids to encourage your kids to get outside. They are 2 sponsored skateboarders. One's a national champion surfer and national champion snowboarder and world ranked only at the age of 9. And these 2 kids are interviewing the gnarliest of athletes, starting their first show with Rob Machado, world champion surfer. Their second episode, which drops tomorrow, is with Sam Klein from Never Summer snowboard team, who is a professional snowboarder. So if you have children, go and support Grommet Vomit. They're under this C- media network that we've kind of started here under the Failure to Stop umbrella. But really cool show. They got some really good guests. They got Jared Taylor, for those of you from the Drinking Bros. They got Jared Taylor on the books, coming on with his little Grom daughter. She's a skateboarder. And so we're really excited to have the Lord of Hot Dogs coming on their show here soon. If you want to support the show, go and leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. We want to get back on the charts with Failure to Stop 2.0. We're kicking ass. Last Friday's show was one of the best Friday breakdowns. You've all talked about it. It was insanely good. Night Shift. Andrea's back, baby, with good internet and one of the best true crime stories she's ever told. All the practice we did in the 2 weeks that we had off are really coming to fruition. We've really stepped up the game, and all we're asking you to do, if you don't want to be a paid subscriber and get backstage access to our Discord and support us that way, all you have to do is go and leave a free 5-star rating review on the old iTunes or the Spotify so we can get back on those podcast charts, baby. And that is all. Well, I want to bring in my special guest today for Last Call, and he's going to be a staple. He's new to the Failure to Stop team. He is our head researcher. His name is, I'm not going to tell you his first name. I don't know if he wants you to know his God-given government name, but he goes to us. He is known to us as Deadleg Media. What's up, Deadleg?
Hello, sir.
Do I call you Deadleg? Do I call you Mr. Leg? What do I call you now that you're kind of being a staple on Last Call with me?
Either or is fine. Josh is fine too.
Oh, I can say Josh. I can say you're
Josh is fine. Yeah, Josh works.
As long as Jonathan, where I silence the J, just call you Hush.
Yeah, as long as you guys got bail money when we get on the watch list after the stuff that we start diving into here.
So for those of you who don't know, Deadleg Media has been doing a lot of the research for Failure to Stop 2.0. Again, I told you guys we're stepping up our name, we're stepping up the team. And so we've added him under the umbrella along with an underpaid producer who's still with us. But he's kind of doing all the research. And so since Last Call has always been about news other than the job, Deadleg has a very unique way of looking at the news, almost in a way that's it's on the verge of conspiracy, but it's truth. It's finding the truth. It's that fine line between what mainstream media propaganda gives you and what far right-wing conspiracy theorists give you. He's finding the news right in the middle, giving us the real news, not trying to invoke your emotions. Anytime somebody's playing with your emotions, they're lying. Right? We're just giving you the facts here. And so obviously I'm going to be the king of all the oddity and weird news updates, but Deadleg is always going to be feeding us what's going on in the news. So we're in the fucking know, baby. So what do they say on G.I. Joe's? What is it they say on G.I. Joe at the beginning of every episode, Deadleg?
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't a G.I. Joe kid.
Something like, now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
Half the battle.
There it is. There it is. What do you got for us today, Deadleg? How you doing? How the hell are you doing? Tell us about yourself. My bad.
I'm not too bad. I'm retired now. I live out in Colorado with my wife, and she is about to finish her PhD here in the next couple months. And yeah, it's just the two of us out here. I've got all the time in the world.
Pretty hard dick PhD. What is finishing a PhD?
Basically, you have no life. So eventually we will be able to take the 10 years that we've been together and we'll be able to turn that into something, hopefully, in the near future. Sure. Start our own little skateboarding camp, maybe.
There you go. There you go. Love it, dude. You're a retired police law enforcement officer. And you got a great gig. You got your computer, you got the webs, and you've got some common sense behind you, and you've always been shooting us straight, and I trust you enough to have you deliver the news for me so that I can be informed and I don't sound like an idiot at the weekend barbecue. When people start talking about Joe Biden's family vacation, I won't be the guy that says, where'd they go, Disney?
No, they went to the Virgin Islands for the New Year.
Virgin Islands. Beautiful. I mean, how many... you probably don't know this, but how many vacations does Biden take compared to what other presidents take? That would be what I wonder. Did he take more or less than Bush, more or less than Clinton, more or less than Obama, more or less than Trump?
I don't know how many vacations he took, but I worked in Hawaii when Obama was during his presidency. So I got kind of wrapped up into some of that stuff when he was out there. So every year it got to the point where somewhere around July or August, I would sit down with my tax lady because I knew how much overtime we were going to have. So I knew how much overtime I needed to stop taking because back then I was unmarried and no kids and I didn't have a house and no business, no nothing like that. So I needed tax write-offs.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's motherfuckers on vacation all the time. But I guess you could say that about all presidents. They would always complain that Trump was always golfing. So, and
I know. I would argue that
in Texas.
Just thinking about the amount of responsibility that comes with that office, with that title, I think that they're entitled to a little bit of downtime, regardless of who's sitting in the desk.
Yeah, because you got to take care of yourself. You can't take care of a country if you're not taking care of yourself.
Because I'm pretty sure they don't have ghost beds in the White House.
Why not? I mean, the good old USA. They probably got some I bet you they got some Chinese-made shit there.
They should. I don't know. They should invest in ghost bed though.
Now, it's not that he takes so many vacations that's the problem. It's that this vacation, is a little bit more sinister.
The timing. So by itself, the vacation looks like he went on vacation for 7 days and came back around January 3rd. He hasn't visited the islands from what I could see. He's visited them before, but nothing in the last 15 or 20 years.
Oh, so he just said, you know what? We haven't been to the Virgin Islands in 20 years. Sounds like a great spot to go visit this year.
Yep. Well, you could think maybe he was down there to congratulate the district attorney because she secured $105 million settlement to the Virgin Islands. Okay. On top of that, and that settlement comes from the Epstein estate. So she secured $105 million from the Epstein estate, as well as half of the proceeds from all the Epstein Islands that he owns. When they sell those off, they get half of those proceeds.
I'm guessing that's big money for the Virgin Islands.
So that's $105 million to just that one, and then it's estimated somewhere in the $50 to $60 million for what they're going to get for the half of the other, because the island is listed around 120 to 130 million.
Whoa!
But what's listed, like the acreage is, I think it's like 76 acres, and it's very vague in the listings with it, like how many structures, where they're at, what you have access to. But the listing was for like 123 million, and they were estimated it would go 120 to 123 or 130.
Golly, it's insane money.
So you think that he would be down there to congratulate her for that, but earlier that day, on the same day, so on the 27th of December, she files a lawsuit against JPMorgan Chase, alleging that the bank benefited financially from Jeffrey Epstein's operations and failed in its duty to report suspicious financial activity. A spokesperson for JPMorgan Chase told CNN the company had no comment on the lawsuit as of Wednesday evening, December 27th.
Now, this is funny because JPMorgan has been around since Bush in 1911, the original OG politician Bush. And JPMorgan there has been conspiracy theories about I gotta stop saying conspiracy theories, because it's not conspiracy theories. It really fucking happened. JPMorgan really started an insurrection back in like 1911.
Well, then all the settlements that them and the other banks that have been involved with Epstein over the years, they have legitimately paid out millions in settlements, tens of millions, hundreds of millions in this one case.
But you can't find a conspiracy, I put that in quotes, in theory dating back to the early 1900s that doesn't involve or start with JPMorgan.
Yes, it's one of you start even pulling on that thread, because then it's the ball. Is it the same ball that keeps rolling? Is it the new people that are kicking the ball down the road? Because just like with everything else, with all the conspiracy, with the FBI files that we were looking at, it's not like a big massive consortium of people that sit down every Wednesday and say, okay, this is what we're going to do this week to screw up the world. It's a couple people that are in key positions that are able to make decisions, and then you get a couple people below them that support it, and then you get the next people below that are going to be the ones that are going to be your managers. They're actually going to do the work. They're not going to question. You're not, just like street cops, you're not going to question if they say this is what we're not going to do, stop and frisk, or we're not going to do this in this area, or we're going to do extra enforcement in this area. The higher up say that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do.
You're right. One time we were told that we had to go take political signs down that were not anywhere, that weren't on a proper corner. And that's never been done before. I mean, they had every election season, they scatter these election signs all over the place. But then the election season with the whole the whole Trump Biden thing, anything that was not outside of like a place that was deemed they're allowed to have them on this corner, this corner, this corner. We had to go around and take them down. And I was like, man, I feel like we're taking a lot of Trump signs down.
Because then you go back and you play, is what we're doing now something that is it something that we've done historically? And if it's not, then you ask
why. We did it without question. I mean, we questioned it, but we all just did it. You know what I'm saying? Like we just went with it. But like, looking back, it's like, I wonder if somebody was just a little bit butthurt about there being more of one particular candidate signs and
you got some lieutenant or some captain, or even, you don't even have to have somebody that high up, that just someone is in a decision-making position and they can make, hey, this is the policy. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah, I hope that I saw some kind of briefly about this in the chats, but I hope that whoever buys Epstein Island is haunted by one of those like rape victims, and then they just rape the person who buys it as a ghost.
Because when during my because when you're starting doing research for this, especially with his name, it's really hard to find stuff. It's hard to find stuff that's not literally copy and paste regurgitated. Like I posted on my Instagram, I picked this literally. I had 100 of those that were the exact same thing. So it's hard to find, when you go back and you ask, where does Epstein get his money from? What did he do?
Right.
What was his job? No one could, you can say what he did, but
I mean, I have a theory that he was with the CIA and his whole job was to blackmail everybody that he possibly could.
It wouldn't be.
And that way they had dirt on every single person so that the CIA could run the country, because the CIA, obviously we learned on December 17th that the CIA killed John F. Kennedy, although nobody's talking about that, right? The declassification came out and it's all fingers are pointing that the CIA fucking killed John F. Kennedy. And we're just gonna let that one go, right? We're letting all sorts of weird shit go. The fact that this woman secures $105 million the day that Joe Biden takes his trip down to the Virgin Islands, and then almost 3 days later, I don't want to blow the story, but this story gets even weirder. If you don't want to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole, let's just talk about the facts. Joe Biden goes to the Virgin Islands. He hasn't been there in 20 years. He gets down to the Virgin Islands at the same time that they secure the Virgin Islands. The Attorney General secures $105 million from the Epstein's Island. And then 3 days later,
they secured that. They secured that before, and then she filed a new lawsuit against JPMorgan Chase.
Right. And then what happens there?
So this new lawsuits get filed. Biden shows up later on that afternoon, and on December 31st, she was dismissed by the governor, Albert Bryan Jr. of the Virgin Islands.
So she gets fired 4 days later.
And they have literally said nothing up until yesterday was the most that I could find on something. And it's shot in the dark, kind of. It's from the Virgin Island Daily News, and they're saying that there have been issues. There was a case that they had filed in 2017 that never got brought to trial. There were some issues with St. Croix, one of the islands, not having a morgue in the hospital, and they were having move bodies from one morgue to the other. That there was an issue with that. But the other issue was, I guess, that she didn't keep him in the loop of, hey, I'm going to file this today. So when she filed it, he learned about it like everybody else learned about it.
So Biden goes down to the Virgin Islands for the first time in 20 years at the same exact time that all of this happens in the Virgin Islands, which is pretty rocking news, right? You're going after JPMorgan, the number one source of every conspiracy theory that's existed since the early 1900s.
Well, and they have the financial backing of JPMorgan. They were JPMorgan. They have all of that money.
JPMorgan is the head of the snake when it comes to almost every conspiracy theory story that exists right now.
So, yeah. So
she files a suit against JPMorgan Chase and gets fired immediately. And we're all okay with that. Nobody's going to try to fight for her. Nobody's going to say justice for her. Some shitbag can go to Russia with fucking drugs and get imprisoned, and the whole country will go in defense of her. But when a woman is going after one of the most corrupt banking systems, one of the most corrupt banks of all time in all of history,
and has a successful history of
ties
winning
to Epstein, they fire her. And we're all just sorry, bitch.
They haven't really said anything whether the case is going to keep forward. They haven't said anything whether they're going to dismiss the case. It's been hush. They just don't. Nobody's saying anything about it.
Right. No, nobody was saying anything about Sam
Bankman-Fried.
Sam Bankman-Fried, America's largest fraud. Now, remember, they just arrested a woman for, what was the woman in Alabama that They went to her house. She was like 80-something years old, and they went and arrested her. Was it because she didn't? Oh, because she wouldn't pay for the public utilities for the trash.
Or something like that, and they arrest. Yeah,
and they went and put cuffs on her. So like, we'll go and arrest some bitch for not paying for her trash services, but the man who has America, according to the Attorney General, America's largest fraud, and they let him go out on bond.
Well, it's ironic things with that day as well. That's the day that they signed the our budget into effect.
Right.
So on the same day Congress approves this $1 trillion spending bill, oh boy, who just ran out with billions of dollars, gets thrown
scot-free. Remember,
Sam
Bankman-Fried was a nobody. He was a college student who his mother was from Silicon Valley and started a secret society to raise money for high-level Democrats called the society was called Mind the Gap. Mind the Gap. You can Google it. She started a society called Mind the Gap, and they were anonymous donators that ended up being like the third highest donors to the Democratic Party. Almost as soon as Biden is elected as the nominee, her son starts a Bitcoin exchange, and almost overnight, in less than 2 years, becomes the second largest donor to the Democrat Party. His name is Sam Bankman-Fried. Second largest donor, second only to George Soros.
And then he alleges that he's donated the same amount to Republicans, but he hasn't done it publicly because he understands the optics of it.
What was 140 million? It was
something like that.
140 million to the Democrats and 200,000 to a Republican. But it was to a Republican that they wanted to see in office because they had shit on him, dirt on him.
Yep.
The moment that in this October 2022, when the primaries, the primaries were over, the next day Sam Bankman-Fried is arrested. That money being alleged to come, that they were funneling money out of Ukraine. That was just a big story about it. That the news only chalked off as right-wing conspiracy theorists. And that's what they kept saying. Right-wing conspiracy theorists think this, and they come up with the most audacious story. That wasn't the story. The story is the totality of the story. How 3 years ago this was a college student whose mother started a society and became overnight the largest donors to the Democrat Party, and then gets arrested the day after the primaries for Joe Biden, only to be called America's biggest fraud, and then he gets out on bond almost immediately. So the Democrats' biggest donor is also the biggest fraud.
Meanwhile, there are still people from January 6th incarcerated.
Right, right, without bond
for criminal trespassing.
I'm telling you, there's crazy times are happening right now. This is right out of Gotham City Batman comic books. Super villains.
Because then you have to, then like with going back with the Kennedy, you have to go back. You start asking yourself, you start looking at things, and you start unbelieving. You start losing faith in the system and losing faith in everything else. Then you start looking back and go, well, could this be applied to the 90s? Could this be applied to the 80s? Could this be applied to the set? What else has gone on that has just been swept under the rug? The problem is we have the internet right now.
Right. Which is why it's so crucial that Twitter becomes, a tool of propaganda and a tool of government. Like I say every day, dude, I'm so shocked that Elon Musk isn't dead. He
said it himself. And then with tracking his jet, people,
and all these people, like all these high-end people, like the Malaysia flight that just disappeared, that had that had like 4 of the main board members for the Rothschilds that were going to sign, and since all 4 of them died in the plane crash, they couldn't sign the documents. Like, that's real shit. That's not a conspiracy. Those guys were really on that airplane, and it disappeared. Who was the Kennedy that died in the airplane?
The one that's the brother, wasn't it?
Yeah, some one of the Kennedy. How many people do you know, Deadleg? How many people do you think that you know in this world? that you've met?
That I would, if I sat down, maybe a couple hundred that I could like name. I've probably interacted with.
Not even name, but how many people do you know of? You might not know
No.
their names, but you know them. You've met them.
I've interacted
thousands.
I've just from the law enforcement contacts, there's at least thousands of tens of thousands, if not close to hundreds of thousands.
Oh, it's got to be close to 100,000 for me. Out of all of those, how many do you know have died in a plane crash?
I don't know anybody that's died in a plane crash.
Me either. But what's like? Why is it so crazy that all these like?
Well, because you look at
like, remember
Aaliyah, Kobe.
Yeah, Aaliyah, Kobe, Kennedy. Well, I forgot which Kennedy it was. It's just it's different. I don't know. And I know guys that fly every single day of their lives.
I was working on my pilot's license when I was in Hawaii, so I understand a little bit about planes, and they're more designed to stay in the air than to come out. If a plane comes out of the air, there's a lot of things that have gone wrong.
It's funny to me. Yeah, and there's just so much right now that came out of the news in December. Why do you think so many people that are normally really boisterous are really quiet? And I'm talking about your Rand Pauls, talking about your what's the homeboy with one eye out of Texas, Dan Crenshaw, Ron DeSantis. You know, the news that I felt like came out in December, bombshell news, like real news, like the JFK news that came out, the Sam Bankman-Fried news that came out.
All the Twitter stuff. You got Twitter stuff now. You got the Twitter files with the FBI. You got the Pfizer guy with Twitter.
Yes. All those things. Why all of a sudden, when it seems like they have enough ammunition to absolutely nuke their opponents, why have they been silent?
Because my guess would be is they feel that their fingers are just as dirty, but I don't know that they're as. Everybody's a little dirty. It's just who's got the most dirt on them. Because everything that's come out, it all leans one way, very heavily, but both sides are involved. You got the Trump campaign with people from the Trump were involved with trying to get stuff from Twitter and stuff from Facebook, and there's been not leaks, but it's been put out that they were involved too. So my thought would be, you're looking for the optics is the other party can go, yeah, well, we did it, you did it too. So we're both, but
we've been doing that. I mean, it's just come out now that Joe Biden has got caught up in an investigation as well, where he had classified documents in his own library.
Yeah, that's coming. That's last 24, 48 hours.
If you're going to indict Donald Trump on that.
Well, if you're going to send the FBI down to raid for these documents, if it's the same type of documents, the optics are when it's not applied equally. That's the problem. It's not that we live in.
It's not applied legally or equally, because it's like if Biden's daughter leaks that her dad took inappropriate showers with her and that her brother made inappropriate sexual advances on her at a very young age, according to her diary, which the FBI confirmed was in fact her diary. When in the history of man has anybody done a search warrant on a media company for obtaining a diary? And we've talked about it. We have a whole episode on the breakdown. It's never happened. CNN has anonymous leaked sources of shit, diaries, emails, laptops. CNN's never been raided. Fox News has never been raided. NBC's never been raided. CNBC's never been raided. But when you have one outlier media company that gets access to a diary, all of a sudden they get raided by the FBI?
Not only that, they're able to verify the information. And from my understanding, they didn't initially publish it because they were worried about how how it was obtained. So the initial part of it, they didn't even want to be involved with it. But you've got the FBI actively telling Twitter that this is fake. This is Russian disinformation. This isn't real. So they're actively trying to put propaganda out to tell you that it's not true. At the same time, they're taking down the stories to tell you that it's not true.
And again, going back to my question is, why is Ron DeSantis, why is Rand Paul and all these guys. Why are they silent? It makes no sense.
Unless you're as complicit.
Unless you're complicit. Unless you've got something unless we're all working towards something, and that's where we've come to in a society that we have to look at the news and we have to say, okay, what are they, instead of just saying like, oh, wow, that's interesting news. Now we have to look at the news and say, okay, what's going on? Even after Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, hands up, don't shoot, all of these things that we've been just absolutely, completely, Kyle Rittenhouse just lied to by the media. We're going back to the Whitmer kidnapping, all these things that have been faked and frauded. We're now looking at the media and not saying what is the news today, but we're saying what's in the news today and what are they trying to hide. For instance, I looked at the news this morning and saw that all the flights are grounded, and it's because of some kind of GPS tracking system. But my brain won't allow me to just accept, because mainstream media said that. I'm thinking, okay, so who's launching what missile where, and who's why do we need the airspace is clear?
Who's missing a meeting today because they're not able to get there? Yep,
there you go.
Who's not signing papers today? Who's not showing up to court? Who's not testifying against somebody else?
There you go.
It's one of those things where the media they have shot themselves in the foot so bad for the past several years. You cannot believe anything that they say.
Hydroman Blue says in the chats, the FBI basically confirmed the diary is legit. Hydroman Blue, they didn't basically. No, they solidified it by having a warrant out for Ashley Biden's stolen diary. You can't take a warrant out. If I say that I stole, that I had possession of Hydroman Blue's journal, but there's no such thing that exists, or you have your own journal, there's no warrant that can be taken out against me unless there's proof that I have his journal. And even I can't write a journal, say it's Hydroman Blues, hold it up in the air, and then them take a warrant out for my arrest and come arrest me for alleging to have a diary. No, they have a warrant for arrest for Ashley Biden's diary, which means the diary did exist.
Not only that, they raided Rudy Giuliani and he physically had the laptop. They went through all of his stuff and took everything but the laptop. He even showed up on a podcast showing the laptop off like a couple days later. Like, this is what they were looking for. This is it. This is the actual laptop. So you can, just thinking from law enforcement, when we wanted to, like, if we stopped a car and we wanted to be able to search, but we didn't have consent and we didn't have enough like PC, you could search the car by doing it. Like if they're going to arrest you for driving offense, you're going to tow their vehicle and impound their vehicle. You're going to have to do an inventory in the vehicle. So there's ways of getting around things by getting around things. So if they wanted to raid them because they wanted to see what else they had or what else they were working on, you can go there under the guise of, we're here for this diary. But we're not going to look at the diary. We're here for everything else.
Right, but you're not going to get a signed warrant from a judge for a diary that doesn't exist.
From a media outlet, like I'll have to check for sure, but I'm pretty sure that even if it was proven stolen and the media outlet published it, they're still covered because it's of merit for there's journalistic
case. It's always been the case that you can't. It doesn't matter how the media obtains their information. Yep. They're not bound by those laws. But that's just going back to there are bigger things at play right now, and we're all just complicit with it. We're all okay with it. The Event 201 that's taking place right now with Bill Gates, the Melinda Gates Fund, and the World Health Organization, and all these things. We're all complicit by just allowing these things to happen and just saying, it's not really my responsibility. Somebody else like Eric and Dead Leg Media will just talk about it. And I do agree that knowing is half the battle, but at some point, guys, there's got to be some kind of a protest. There's got to be some kind of writing your congressman. There's got to be some kind of conviction that makes you that same conviction that tells you that you want to get in shape and lose weight. We got to have that same conviction that says, I want to keep my freedom and I need to write my congressman, or I need to pay more attention to how I vote, or, we've got to start putting some of our convictions into action. We need to start holding some of these people with the Epstein thing accountable. This
we know about
this whole JPMorgan thing is absurd.
You got all the details of Johnny Depp's case, but you don't get anything of the Epstein stuff. You don't get anything like the Maxwell. I can't. I mean, I can believe it because it's just par for the course. But as soon as the case was done with her, they sealed everything. Why?
Right. We don't seal everything when a cop, diddles over 150 counts of, inappropriate behavior with, girls under the age of 12, and his teacher wife committed the same crime. They release everything. The only redactions are the children's names and addresses.
Yep.
So, if that's a law enforcement officer and a teacher that diddles children and everything is released. I mean, when I mean everything, I mean the search warrant, the tapes, where he threw the phone into the river. I mean, the polygraph information from his polygraph, not only his most recent polygraph, but the polygraphs that he took back in the 90s are obtainable. We did it all on our show, the Dennis Perkins case, one of the most horrific cases, of the mid 2000s. But then we have the Epstein case, and because it's Epstein, everything is sealed. That's not correct. That's not fair. That's not right. They're the same crime, right? 150 counts of inappropriate sexual behavior with minors versus Epstein's inappropriate sexual misconduct with minors. One, everything gets released. The other, nothing gets released because of money. One person has money and the other person's blue collar. The ruling rich, the ruling elite are out of fucking control. Out of fucking control right now.
Well, then we had this past with putting everybody at home, the transfer of wealth that happened during the pandemic. So the richer are even more rich, and the people that are working their asses off every day, they're even more poor. They're working twice as hard to get half as much. Meanwhile, the news is telling you the duck that you're seeing on the news isn't a duck. That's a bird. Or it's a fish, or it's something completely different.
Right. Which, by the way, there are drone birds out there that they've been using for a very long time. I know people like to throw that one out there is crazy, but you can go and they're pretty awesome. Like you can go and look at it. You can.
Well, then you've got the high
altitude. Even buy one.
You got the ones that are like medium they're high altitude for like drones, but they're low altitude.
They'll attach cameras to the feet of like pigeons. Like little yellow, like those little, like the same one, like the pin mic and the pin video camera that we use for confidential informants doing buys. And, we've got cigarettes, Newport News cigarettes that are cameras and microphones. And they've strapped them to the birds' feet. But I just remember back in the day when everybody was like, "Oh, they believe that the birds are actually drones." No, that's what the crazy person thinks. But like, what's reality is that there are birds that fly around that they can put cameras and microphones on, and the U.S. has done that over various cities. Like literally, the U.S. has used that technology. The Russians use it all the time. Russians have been using fucking dolphins.
The dolphins. Well, I watched a documentary on. Had a really nice plaque that they had. This big wooden commemorative thing that they had in the Russian embassy.
White House. It was like the seal of the United States,
something like that. And it had a listening. It had a listening device in it that they could turn on with for years or something? For like a high frequency. That's how they could turn it on, and it would just a listening. That's all it was. But it had no other way that you would know that it's there. And that's back from like the 60s. Mm-hmm. See if you think how fast technology advances, and then you'd apply machine learning to things now too.
Yeah.
It's incredible the surveillance that we have.
Drew Breezy says that the birds, the Chinese people or the Chinese government uses pigeon cams. I believe it, man. Back in World War I, they were using carrier pigeons, right? To take notes. I've been using that since like the Middle Ages, actually.
There's cameras all over in China. But my wife from China, so I've been to China several times.
Oh, you got an Asian wife? Is your wife Asian? Mm-hmm. She's Asian. I've always got a thing about guys with Asian girls. It's always a particular brand. It's always You ever seen The Office?
Yeah.
Remember the dude from Saber? That's like really into
the big tall guy.
Yeah. So you got that guy because it's a stereotype, right? And then Parks and Rec, you just got jammed.
Yep.
He's all into the Asian thing. So I've always laughed. Like I have tons of friends that are married to Asians, and much like yourself, kind of nerdy, kind of into the diving into the computer stuff, the deep web stuff. They always got the one up on me on the nerd game. So congratulations.
She makes so one of these days she's gonna realize how smart she is and she's gonna leave me.
Well, she's getting a PhD because that's stereotypical for Asians too. How's her driving game?
She's actually a really good driver.
She's a good driver.
She's a really good driver.
She got the speed limit under.
She'll stay within like 5 over.
Really? Most Asians that I know go under the speed limit and suck at driving.
She's actually a really good driver. I compliment her driving all the time. I'll give her a hard time every now and then, but she's a really good driver.
Is it true what they say? Is the eyes match is it all horizontal? Is there anything vertical?
No, it goes vertical.
Goes vertical.
It still goes vertical.
Okay. I didn't know, man. I've never, I always say that I know I'm systemically racist because I've never masturbated to an Asian porn. Every other culture I've probably jerked off to, but I've never jerked off to an Asian porn.
Maybe it could be racist. It could be a weekend challenge.
A weekend challenge.
Relax out in your ghost bed, stretch out.
Just type in like which Asian country do I go for? Which genre of Asian? Do I go Vietnamese? Do I go?
You got Japan, China,
Japanese?
you got North Korea, South Korea.
What Asian is your wife?
She's China.
Oh, she's Chinese. That's right.
Yep. She's from like northeastern China.
Now, don't hate me, but what's the difference between Chinese and Japanese? Is there a big difference there? Chinese are ninjas, Japanese are samurais.
So here's what's weird. Japan gets this. Like we talk about people getting a slide. Japan gets a slide for a lot of shit that they've done. They massacred a lot of Chinese during the World War.
Didn't they massacre a bunch of like Filipinos too?
And then they did experiments on them as well.
Like 60,000 Filipinos.
Group 716 or 7. It was. I remember 7 something. I went to the museum because the home city that my wife's from has that. We went to the museum. It's incredible because the amount of they would.
And there's a reason why our ancestors called them.
Well, what they would do is they would take people out in the cold and they would put them in water, like freeze them, and then let them get hypothermia and watch. Like there was doctors that was doing experiments on them to try to
see the effect of hypothermia.
See what the human body could take.
Now, is Japan more technologically advanced or as technologically advanced as China? And what's the size difference?
Way different. You're talking like
Chinese has got to be huge.
Japan's
really small, right?
Yeah, Japan's just the little islands up there.
So how does Japan go to war with China and have any luck?
You get that warrior mentality.
Yeah, they do.
You get that
samurai shit.
If you like, just like the wolf pack, if you get people behind a cause, they're willing to go die for it. They'll go die for it.
Because the kamikazes, that wasn't Chinese, right? That was Japanese.
That was Japan.
Yeah. Shit. What did China do during World War II? They stay the fuck out of it.
They kind of got their asses kicked by Japan for a little bit,
and then we nuked Japan. Yeah. Oh,
and then there's a whole Koreas and all that fun stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right. You got Koreans. What Asians are hotter? Koreans, Japanese, Chinese, Philippines, or Vietnamese? What produces the hottest?
I stopped looking for that in a person a long time ago because I realized that we'll all get old and crippled.
Were you in search for an Asian when you were courting women?
No, not really.
I was just met her and
someone I could stand. Someone I could be in a room with for more than 5 minutes and not want to leave.
Gotcha.
Because we're all going to get old. We're going to get wrinkly. For me, when we first met, I was perfectly able-bodied. And
but Asians don't age. Asians don't age until their last, until they hit 100.
Yeah, her mom looks like her sister. She's another child.
So, does your wife? Does she make Asian cuisine, or does she prefer American cuisine?
No, she makes all kinds of stuff. I still eat my white people food, as we call it. I'm a plain Jane kind of
Egg
person.
rolls.
And
Is that Chinese or Japanese?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Really? Just kind of like mix it up with each other.
Because, well, I do know this, that like when you go to a Chinese restaurant or a Chinese buffet here in the United States, it's not real Chinese food.
Right. Because like real Chinese food is like grasshoppers and
like fish. Well, I don't know that I've seen her eat that stuff, but like fish and like octopus and all kinds of like seafood and stuff like that. And then a lot of vegetables. They eat a lot of vegetables.
Yeah, they eat a lot of seafood, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
I like seafood.
Yeah.
I like seafood on that. What brought her to the United States of America?
School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she didn't get adopted or anything. She came for school, and then she did her undergraduate, and then we met right towards the end of her undergraduate, and then she got her first graduate degree at Ohio State, and then we moved out here to Colorado for her PhD.
Does she make white people jokes?
No, not really.
No.
She'll no.
She ever say that it's true what they say? White people are bigger than Chinese men?
No, she always make fun of me all the time for not being adventurous with food. She's like, I don't know why you won't eat this. She does give me a hard time about food.
Has she ever said though that like Chinese men have small wieners? Does she admit to that? Or is that even true?
No. I don't know. I could do some research for you.
Do you think that most Chinese women want a non-Chinese man because they want a bigger wiener? Possibly.
I think depending how involved in the culture they are, because the family, the family dynamic is very huge. So having someone that's stable, they'll keep safe and keep a roof over your head, and it's good for the family, and will be able to get father. They look for things like that.
So they're not like interested in like dick sizes.
I'm sure there are some that they'll come over and this is how we're going to sample who going to be my husband.
Yeah. That's interesting. I always want to know the thing. I'm culturally inept. I'm an uncultured fuck, really. So I always have a lot of questions I do this with twins. Whenever I run into a set of twins,
they're kind of cool too to talk to.
I love it. I love it every time, man. There's a set of twins that comes to my distillery all the time, and I just tell my wife, clear my schedule. Twins are here. Go hang out at that table and play twin games. Anything else pressing in the news that we need to know about?
There was the flight stuff. So right before we went live, they said that might have been taken care of, but it's not 100%.
So the meeting's over. We can resume. We can resume the airways.
We can get back to it. There's the Bugatti. Is he the guy that was with the Chinese spy?
Bugatti?
I
have no idea.
That's the transportation guy. There was a guy that was on. I'll look into it. There was a guy that was on. He was a chairman of subcommittee, and it's pretty open that he got caught in a relationship with the Chinese spy.
Well, I mean, Hunter Biden got caught up in some Chinese spy shit too.
I don't know that they're not still caught up in it.
Well, true. But even Obama was pissed when that happened.
But was he? Because there's public,
right.
And then there's like, hey, I'm gonna have to yell at you, Joe, behind the scenes or whatever, or we're gonna have to make a big stink about this, or you're gonna have to fall on your sword for it.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I saw my name in the chat, so I just wrote Eric, but I was like, yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Member in the chat that said Eric. Oh, it's Drew Breezy. I don't know why I said my name, but if you need something, Drew, just
good morning, Drew. I don't have
Drew.
I don't have the chat up, so.
Oh, that's fine. We do have Tactical Dude in the chat, Silamander's in the chat, Hydroman Blue, Imperial Girl. Of course, Silamander could be a girl. I don't know. I don't know the race or gender of a lot of these people. I do know Hydroman Blue is a lot younger than.
I'm pretty sure she's a girl.
He's a lot older than I thought.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit on Instagram.
Vera Kiranov, that's a new one I've seen, saw a video of someone placing minicam on a beetle of some kind. So much unnecessary effort. Yeah, I can't imagine that a beetle goes very far. Maybe that's the point. Maybe if they put the camera on the beetle doesn't go very far. Maybe it's for science to see where it like digs a hole Yeah, it's weird. That is weird. But I guess, maybe you're testing it for NASA purposes. If it can survive a beetle digging through the ground, maybe they can put it on some kind of thing. We got who else we got in the chats today? We tagged a cool dude. Is always with us. We appreciate that. Davey. Oh, Davey. How can we miss Davey? And Brittany Faulkner. Brittany Faulkner is up in there. Bones Cold, Fleas Austin. John can't hear me anymore. All those guys. Thank you guys for joining in the live chat today. If you want to be a paid member and be in the live chats for Wednesdays, last call, I think it's like $3 a month, something like that. And that goes to supporting the show, goes to keep this thing on the airwaves, keeping everybody minorly paid. It's on the team since we're growing, but this content does go out for free on Thursdays. So if you're really blue collar, you can't afford the extra $3. I get it. That's why we give it to you for free one day later. But kind of like church, if you want to give, if you want to tithe to your Lord and Savior, failure to stop, you may do so. We only ask 9%.
It's not the same. It's close. Watching church at home in your beanbag chair and your boxer shorts is close, but it's not like being in church.
Yeah. We're not going to fill you with the Holy Spirit. We're going to fill you with conspiracy theories.
Yep.
Make you feel bad about allowing Epstein to diddle children and get away with it. Do you think Epstein's still alive? I think he's dead.
I think he's dead.
Yeah, I do too. I don't think you faked that. Maybe you do, though. You think Maxine is in like a real prison, or you think she's in like a...
I don't know. If I wouldn't be, I'd sleep with one eye open if I was her.
Ted Cool Dude says, everyone check out the 777 project with Black Rifle Coffee. Definitely going to do that. Again, just a humble plug, a shameless plug, I should say, not humble, shameless plug. Jared Taylor has been in conversation with my 9-year-old about going on their podcast, Grommet Vomit. If you have kids, if you just want to get stoked in life and hear 2 9-year-old kids that are absolutely rad, starting their own podcast. If you're one of the 8 members that are in here, that means you are hardcore. Please go and give these guys a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. I know that you've already done it for Failure Stop, so I don't have to ask you to do that because you wouldn't be here if you didn't. But if you can find it in your hearts, if you have some time, play the 30 minutes, just put it on your phone. And even if you're not into surfing or skating, just put it on mute. I'd really like to see these boys get on the charts and, help C- Media Company grow as we bring on other podcasts over the years, along with, the flagship show Failure Stop. But we'd like to branch out and grow these things and make it one big family, with lots of opportunities for lots of other people to make a name in podcasting or make a living doing what we do because we love it so much. But check out the 777 project with Black Rifle Coffee. The final call video that they did, or the final call, the final ride video that Black Rifle Coffee just did, made me tear up at the end. It was an incredible, super entertaining video. And Vera Kiranov says, I'm here because of my husband. Did he order you online via Kiranov? Is that like a mail order bride reference?
I think her husband is Marine Bloodbath.
Oh, so he went to the Kiranov. That looks like Kosovo, maybe. And yeah, that's cool though. I deployed to Afghanistan with a dude that got a Brazilian mail order bride. Got upset when you called her a mail order bride. However, it was a 1-year trial, and then they would see if they want to get married. So it wasn't a mail order bride; it was dating. But well, Vera, I hope that you enjoyed it and that you enjoyed watching this. We don't always get into conspiracy style news. We usually do fun stuff to get kids outside, to get families together. But because I had Dead Leg Media on, we thought that might be fun. For those of you guys who are, Vera says she's all American. That's just her gamer tag. Fucking nerd. My ex-uncle got a Russian bride. It did not end well. That's from Imperial Girl. Is that where you got your name? Imperial Girl. The Imperial Nations. Is that a thing? Imperial, Chinese Imperial, right?
Yeah, the Imperial, the Emperor.
Yeah. But anyway, if you haven't done something with your family and your kids, make sure you do it this weekend. Deadleg, I took my son. Actually, I keep saying 9. He just turned 10 this weekend. It's hard for me to say, but I took my son, 10 years old. He and his little podcast buddy, JB2 from Grommet Vomit podcast. We took him down to Hampstead, North Carolina, and we stayed at an Airbnb with like 9 fucking kids, man. In this one Airbnb at the skate park. So it was an Airbnb attached to the skate barn. Awesome place to go, man. And the kids would just roll out of bed, walk over to the skate park, which was in the front yard, skate, come back, eat lunch, walk over, and they skated till like 10 p.m. Then they next day they skated from noon until 10 p.m. And then Sunday they got up early and skated from 10 till about 5 or 6. They skated so much and drank so little water that my son was sick yesterday, like minor fever, like almost brown urine, like maybe like went into like rhabdo. But I mean, I think these kids skated for like, out of 48 hours, they skated like 36 of those 48 hours. I think kids are going to bed at like 1 a.m. and they just wore themselves ragged. But whatever. It's better than them being stuck inside on video games, getting fucking fat and stinky. Not that saying video games is bad, but you got to get those kids outside and you got to get them cultured. You got to teach them fucking life skills, how to fall down, how to build a proper fire. That's why I was so glad we had Wayfinder Alley on last week. That was such a great episode.
She was awesome.
Such a great episode for kids. Imperial Girl said you had loads of kids. It looked like a loud, crazy weekend. It was absolutely a loud and crazy weekend, but they're only kids for so long. And 4 years from now, they won't want anything to do with me. So Salamander says that he did love, what's her name? I loved her too, man. I think she was really great. Tactical dude. My mom got me involved with Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts. We did everything. We camped, went to museums, field trip, zoos, as much stuff as possible. I follow this girl. Her name is Tess Perry, TESSPERRY. I'm not sure if she would mind me giving that out or not, but she's got an Instagram. She's a homeschool mom. Really cool girl. But what she started with her children, she's got a lot of great ideas for getting your kids outdoors. But she made a chart, and the kids would write on the chart how many hours per day that they spend outside. And I guess at the end of, 90 days or I don't, maybe it's a year. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the game is. But whoever has the most is the winner, and they win some kind of a prize. And so it encourages the kids to go outside. I mean, they have to write what they did. So they, their one son, was spent a grand total. I'm just making this up, but like today he spent a grand total of 8 hours outside. He built a tree fort and, and then, picked blackberries or something. But they would write kind of what their activity was and how many hours they spent outside. And I just think that's super, super important that we're not putting a lot of focus on. And that's getting these kids outside and getting them outside productively. Not just, hey, go outside with your phone and so you can go sit on the trampoline or sit on the swings and play on your fucking phone. But go outside and build a fort, build a proper fire. Go outside and look for some wild berries. Go outside and identify some plants, or bird watch, or going to the ocean, or going on a proper walk. But all these things are so important. And, we want to really encourage kids. Next week, I don't know what we have in store for last call next week. I know that we have Corey Tatum coming on at some point. But this week, I just want to introduce Deadleg Media and give you kind of an inside look on what his skills are. I think we'll kind of break the show up in the future with some kind of weird oddity news, but then also some like mainstream news that way we give you all the information that you need. Maybe we break this up into 2 shows. I don't know. Maybe we do a Monday show where it's crazy news, and then Thursday's more family rated. We'll have to look at some numbers and see what happens. But anyway, guys, don't forget tomorrow night, Com Center with Drew Breezy and Jonathan Bates. Don't forget Friday's breakdown, which is going to be killer. And you got anything else there, Deadleg? Where can they follow you, buddy? Where can we follow you?
I'm on Instagram at Deadleg Media, or you can get on the Last Call's Instagram.
Yes, you do run Last Call's Instagram. And I do too. So we're both in it. If you're still on here, please go follow Last Call so you can be part of the Last Call family and get involved there. And I'm probably going to start a Last Call family Facebook group where it's a private group, but we share pictures of what we're doing with our family to get each other motivated and excited and to give each other ideas of getting outside with our families, with our loved ones. And it's not just kids, it's wives, girlfriends, but getting us away from the phones and getting away from the screens. And I know it's kind of hypocritical, right? Like go outside and then post what you did, but that's what it takes, right? You know, I'm losing weight because I want to look good in a bathing suit. We always have a motive, right? So if going outside, you're going outside so that you can get content, so that you can put on social media, it's still getting your ass outside, still doing something, fucking something. So I'm all for it, guys. Who wants to be in charge of that Facebook group and starting that group? If you're in the chats, let me know. Not it. Not it. I feel you there. If you're in there, if you're in the chats, if we're up on live call, I'd like somebody to go ahead and start that group, and I will get all up in it, and it'll be a private group just for our last call, guys. We'll keep it a secret. I won't tell anybody on any other feed about it. It's just about those people who want to be encouraged to go outside. And so, all right, man. We love you guys. Dead leg, you crushed. I love your news, man. We'll chat later. Until next time, guys, guns up.
Giddy up.
Giddy up.